Today I want to talk about the 3 biggest interview mistakes leaders make. I call them AAA. They all start with the letter A, and they're also AAA because if we do them, we end up in a ditch on the side of the road and we call for help. So the first interview mistake is we make assumptions and we have bias in the interview that we're often not aware of. And we're going to demonstrate what happens in assumption and bias with my own example here. Here's 2 statements. One is true and one is false. I've worked with NASCAR. That's a statement. I've worked with pilots. Both of those in leadership and communication. Which is true? This one or this one? Well, it's the pilots. But if you've ever read my bio and my background, I often talk about, in stories I write as well, how my love for NASCAR and how I follow NASCAR. So you might have made an assumption that this one was true. So what that exercise demonstrates is what we tend to do in interviews, which is we make assumptions about what we read in their background and assume they can do something when sometimes they can't. And the other thing that demonstrates is people can stretch the truth or tell stories, tell you what you want to hear. We of course know that, but it's the biggest mistake we make is we make assumptions and we have bias when we're interviewing. We have an affiliation with a certain school or a certain business and we just assume that means they can do the work. A way to stay away from that or stay out of trouble with that mistake is detailed greatly on my website and in my workshops, but basically you want to make sure you're focusing on what the job needs and you're using interview questions that relate to competency in the job, and you press for specifics and examples around what's needed in the job and their past performance, and it'll give you a better idea and it'll help you avoid this really big mistake that we're often unaware of, and that is assumption and bias. The second biggest mistake is that we overfocus or we associate background and experience with success. So we think that if you have the right background and experience, you can do the job. How many of you have known someone who knew how to do the job but didn't do the job very well? We could probably all raise our hand to that one. So an amplified focus on background and experience can get us in trouble. People are often fired for dishonesty, inability to get along, inconsistent performance. So we want to focus on the intangibles in a job more than we focus on background and experience. Sure, we look at background and experience, but we want to focus on those intangibles like teamwork, self-management, personal accountability, all competencies that are found in many jobs, most jobs, and all competencies of high performers. So the second biggest mistake is an amplified focus on background and experience. It will get us in trouble. Third biggest mistake is all talk, no listen. So as interviewers and as leaders, we're often either very talkative naturally, very invested in our business so we love to share, might be really busy when we get into the interview so we haven't prepared, and we may not know exactly what we want to do in the interview or how exactly to interview, and so we talk too much. The ratio that you should have is 80% candidate talks, 20% leader talks. Think about the last interview you have. Think about the people on your interview team. Are they doing that? So if you're all talk, no listen, you are missing all the goodies that you need to get in the interview about whether the person can perform the job. So the 3 biggest mistakes: assumption and bias, amplified focus on background and experience, all talk, no listen. Check my webpage, Secret to Superior Performance, with dashes in between. secrettosuperiorperformance.com, and you will see detailed articles, a more detailed quiz about the biggest mistakes. It's the top 13 biggest mistakes. You can kind of quiz yourself there if you want. I also have information about a self-paced class, workshops, and assessments. Thanks.